San Gimignano, 18 miles from Volterra, was a key destination town for us and in the heart of Tuscany's wine country. As we rode to San Gimignano, we were surprised at the lumpy, clay-like composition of the soil. We asked, "This kind of soil produces some of Tuscany's best wines?" The only picture I took of Dick as he rode his bike.
It took us a while before we could pronounce San Gimignano correctly and without stuttering. The second great destination town of our tour. We agreed that if we bought any souvenirs, we would have to carry them on our own bike. It helped us to keep down the price of the tour.
This was the only day of the entire trip it rained, and then it poured. And it provided one of the memorable, if slightly prearranged pictures of the tour.
The wonderful museum of Leonardo da Vinci, a genius of many more talents than just painting the Mona Lisa. More enjoyable people watching as we ate lunch. The tour was often a very satisfying composite of good exercise during the day and great meals at the end of the day. We were concerned about the terrain from San Gimignano to Siena, although the distance was only 26 miles, so we chose to take a bus to Siena.
Most commercial bike tours of Tuscany put Siena on their lists. It is such a captivating town. This is the famous piazza where each year the Palio, the world's most ancient bareback horse race, is held. It gathers Italians from many miles away and goads them into a frenzied and sometimes bloody horse race around the piazza. Spectators standing shoulder to shoulder fill the center of the piazza. We loved sitting on the cobblestones, soaking up the sun on a wonderfully warm day.
When I started to walk around, I felt something wet on my head. Turning around, I saw this man with his hands held up to the sky as if cursing a bird that had just flown over me. Then he showed me his water pistol. I was part of his comic act, as onlookers seated at the tables enjoyed his fun with the tourists. After 15 minutes or so of teasing them, he would pass his hat for tips. Siena's impressive Duomo or cathedral that was completed in 1263. The ceiling of the library is most impressive. Colorful stands of fruit can be found everywhere in Siena, as well as every imaginable design on their front doors.
On our first night, we were awakened at 2 a.m. by crashing drums and blaring trumpets. We hurried outside to watch a parade honoring the contrada or region that had won the Palio that year. We watched them for a few minutes and then we went back to bed.
Entering churches was often partly a sad experience for me as a Catholic priest, having spent so many years trying to help Catholics appreciate the richness of our Catholic traditions, principles, and values. I would think back to the Middle Ages, when a church like this was filled each Sunday with worshipers, and now empty, more like a museum, just tourists who came to browse and take our pictures. I ascribe the loss of a vibrant Catholic presence in churches like this to the failure of church leaders to meet the changing spiritual needs of its people without losing the core faith that should not change with time. I think the American Catholic Church has kept pace with those needs, regardless of the varieties of Catholicism that are prevalent and sometimes confusing.
On our second day in Siena, we hired a terrific private guide to explain its culture and history. A small group formed to benefit from her explanations, though they didn't volunteer to tip her when she was finished. On our final night, we ate at a highly recommended restaurant. Interestingly, when we showed this picture to some friends, they recognized the same outside display and said that they too had eaten there. Rather than mentioning all the hotels, B&Bs, and restaurants we enjoyed and would recommend, we will email you a list of those we can remember if you ask for it. When you bike hard, you need to eat and drink well.
The biggest question mark of the entire tour was the 38-mile strip from Siena to Montepulciano. Siena was on the west side of a low range of hills, Montepulciano on the east side. So again we decided to take a bus. The ride was very interesting because we caught the bus just as grade school children were going home after school. They were very well dressed, happy and chatty kids. We learned from them that they made the trip every day, going back and forth between the two towns. Watching the hilly terrains as we rode along, we were glad we took the bus. As we left our Siena hotel, we prepared to ride a mile or so to catch the bus. Montepulciano is another Tuscan poster town, high on a hill and filled with narrow streets and loads of tourists. The parking lot where we got off the bus.
In Montepulciano, we practice an approach we often took when choosing our lodging for more than one night. We reserve a low-priced room for one night so we can splurge on the second night. This was the low-priced hotel in town, with our bikes locked on the railing and the view from our bedroom window.
This was the high-priced lodging, very high-priced. In some of the bicycle touring magazines I studied for the tour, Villa Poggiano was a frequent choice, and despite the cost, we were glad we chose it. It was 2 miles downhill from Montepulciano, and we soaked up the luxury every minute. Sadly, we were only one of 2 couples staying there, and we never met them to talk about our experiences. We felt we deserved nice lodging and a reward for all our work. We had begun to have Tuscan overload by the time we got to Montepulciano, so picture-taking declined as well. But not the great dinners and great wine, and of course in Montepulciano, the only wine to drink was Montepulciano.
Since we checked in early, we had time to bike 8 miles to Pienza. Pienza was built by a humanist who became Pope Pius II in 1458. Engaged in a spat with Siena, he then named the town after himself. It is a rare example of Renaissance town design and is often described as an, quote, ideal town or utopian town. Although we stayed only a couple of hours, we enjoyed it very, very much. After he ordered his boar sandwich, we did too. That was tasty.